Hi and welcome to our presentation.
This is our group members. Here we have Omar Saisan, and then we have me, Thomas Sandgraf Gate.
And the last one is me, Christian Nørgaard Larsen, and we're three in this group.
And for the country selection, we've chosen Denmark, and it's of course because me and Christian are from Denmark, but it's also because we therefore have some key insights on the business in Denmark and some of the key insights in the Danish business. And then it's also because Denmark is a quite small economy, but it's a very strong one.
Yeah, and also because Denmark is going quite high or low in a lot of aspects in the Hof state, and therefore we think it's it could be very interesting to look forward into.
So, first off, it's negotiation tips and process for Denmark, because it's very important to be good at navigating in negotiations in Denmark. It's essential to understand the culture and some of the nuances that we have in Denmark to be good at the business dealings. So yeah, here are some of the negotiation tips, and some of the first good tip is good relationships, because in Denmark they admire that you have a long-lasting and a very good relationship with your partners, or you could be your customers. But mostly here we talk about the business partners we have, and here it's very important to have a good relationship. So it's not maybe the first time you meet you have this good relationship, but over years you can develop a good relationship and therefore have better negotiation with the company. And then of course it's important to understand the decision making and the process, the decision making process. So yeah, here it's like, I'll talk about it a little bit more in depth later, but in Denmark it's very common that the decision making is done as a collective and not as much as the individual. So if it's bigger decisions, you do it more collective. You ask a lot of people at the company and you make a collective decision. And then of course we value equality a lot in Denmark, and that's very important to understand to make good negotiations. You can't like look down on certain genders or certain ages or anything like that. So it's very important that you respect that to have an advantage in the negotiation. And then we have transparent communication. In Denmark, it's very important that you say things like they are. You don't have to put things between the lines. So you have to say it right as it is, instead of you could say pack it in and not say what you mean or say what you like. So it's important for us that you say it as it is, and therefore again a good negotiation tip. Flexibility and adaptability. So here we value a lot the flexibility in our work. So in Denmark it's very common that you don't work all the time, that you don't bring your work back to home. So here it's important that we can be flexible if someone is pregnant, or for instance, she can get off work or she can postpone her assignment. And adaptability is, of course, you have to adapt to certain assignments, certain projects in the company. So it's very important that the outside of Denmark company does the same, or can at least appreciate that we do it like this. So yeah, we also have the negotiation process, and the negotiation goes as follows. You have the preparation beforehand, Then you exchange the information, so you go to the meeting, and then there's the bargaining for the prices and such, and then there's the closing. Yeah. And first of all, this is of course in terms of Denmark, so the preparation is very important in Denmark. You have to be ready when you are at the meeting, you have to have your information right and such. And then, because otherwise it looks very unprofessional. And then there's the initial meeting, and here we put a lot of emphasis in that you don't have to be like straightforward to the point. You can be like talking about everything else beforehand instead of just going right to the negotiation. So here in the exchanging information in Denmark, we like to talk a little bit about things other than the business. Yeah, and then we have the open dialogue, which is along the same lines. We like to have the open dialogue afterwards throughout the negotiation. So it's like open, so both parties are talking instead of it's only one presenting it and then we answer. It's like a dialogue, a normal dialogue. We talk back and forth throughout. Yeah, and then there's the follow-up afterwards, which is of course important after the closing. So after we've closed the deal, we like to follow up on it, so we know that the customer or in the other way around, that we are happy with the product, so we can emphasize that if we are happy or not happy with the product, and if we can keep this relationship good. So yeah, as I said in the start, that we keep this relationship good, so we have the better negotiation for later. And now I'll pass it on to Omar.
Hello, my name is Omar and I'll be presenting on bargaining decisions in Denmark. In Denmark, bargaining takes on a whole new meaning. Danes hold honesty and transparency close to their hearts, so expect open conversation with clear expectations laid out right from the get-go. Haggling over their last bit isn't their cup of tea. They prefer to focus on finding solution that benefits everyone involved. Imagine negotiation as friendly conversation, not high-stakes poker games. Collaboration is the name of the game. Listen with open ears, understand their perspective, and be ready to offer concession to reach a sweet spot that makes everyone happy. Remember, it's not about winning or losing, it's about finding that harmonious hitch, that cozy feeling of mutual satisfaction. Leave the door slamming and aggressive tactics at the airport. Danes value harmony and maintaining good relationship. Approach them with respect, present your case with logic and facts, and avoid pushing too hard. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Be patient, be flexible. Decisions takes time, often involving consultation within the team. The good news, this means your offer has a chance to be thoroughly considered, leading to a more solid agreement. Building trust is the golden key to unlocking successful negotiations in Denmark. Show them you're reliable, keep your promises, and be consistent in your words and actions. These Danes are all about long-term partnerships. So think beyond the immediate deal and cultivate a relationship that thrives. That's all from me. Thank you.
So like I said earlier, I'll get back to the decision-making process. And here we're going to look a bit on how the process is and how we do it mostly in Denmark. So how are the decisions made? It's very collaborative and consensus driven. So this means that we make the decisions as a collective. It's not like one boss of the firm chooses which direction we have to go or which product we have to sell or something like this. And this then means that it is known as a flat organization structure, which means that that there are fewer hierarchy layers. So there's not like very many layers of hierarchy, and the difference between these hierarchies is less than it is in other countries who of course do the opposite. And then there's the decentralization of decision making. So this means that we don't take the big decisions centralized, so this means centralized in terms of the top of the pyramid in the hierarchy. So it's not the top of the firm that makes or has the only thing to say in making big decisions. So here it's very spread out. Of course, the higher you are in the hierarchy, the more you have to say about it. But it just means that we all have to listen to what each and everyone in the firm has to say about it. And this then lays up to the next topic, which is inclusivity, which then means that we have to include everyone in making the big decisions. And this also means that we have the conservative approach. And the conservative approach then leans a bit up to that we're not that good at making the big decisions, because we have to ask so many and see if everyone agrees or everyone doesn't agree, and which direction we then have to go. So this then means that it's harder to make some big decisions because you have to get a lot of people to agree, and therefore it leans up that it's hard to make big changes in Danish firms. Yeah. And then consideration of the stakeholders' input. So this means that if you have some stakes in a firm in Denmark, there's these annual meetings where the stakeholders also get something to say about which direction we go, and gets information about how it's going, of course, but they also get something to say, and this also leads up to the inclusivity, which I talked about earlier. Yeah. Then to conclude this, Denmark stands out in the collaborative, inclusive, and decentralization of the decision making. And then the decisions are well thought through, which I talked about earlier, and they are well rounded in terms of viewpoints, because everyone has the viewpoint, and then you make a collaborative decision which way you're going in the firm. But this, as I said, also is a bad thing because it makes it hard. Okay, so the next short section is going to be a role play where we're going to show how decision making could be made in a Danish firm. Hello, Christian. You want to see me at the office?
Yeah, take a seat.
Would you?
The reason I called you in today is because we actually have quite a big decision to take in the company, in the department we have here.
Okay. And you were sure you want to take that decision? Only us two?
Well, that's probably a good thing you say that, because we usually do it as a collective in this firm, so we probably should do that again.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll write a mail around to your colleagues.
Okay. And then we take it as a collective.
We take it as a collective, yeah.
That's how we used to do it, right?
Yeah. This is about communication styles. And for verbal, we have in the meetings, it's the most common language to be spoken is of course Danish, and that's would be used 99% of the time. It's very rarely that we used English in a meeting in Denmark. It's almost never happens, except if it's like a meeting with different internationals and different cultures. That will probably happen. Yeah, and traditionally it's used a lot of face-to-face meetings. So you can get the personal connection and you can get the open dialogue you can have with having a face-to-face meetings where people are present. but after the COVID-19 pandemic, it's been more accepted and been more used to use like Teams meeting, online meetings. It's quite easy and it's quick to do an online meeting and people can stay at the place. Yeah. But it's still preferred to have face-to-face because you get the personal feeling and connection and open dialogue. And it's quite, in the Danish business culture, it's quite characterized by being direct and informal, to have a low context communication style, so quite direct, not too much talk in between, minimal unnecessary talk, and try to focus on the subject you're there for. Yeah. So it's quite result orientated, and that contributes to productivity and effectiveness. Yeah, and I've written colleagues because when you're dealing, the things I just mentioned was if you have a meeting with people you don't know that well, it's a new connection. But if you have with your colleagues or superiors, it's normal in Danish culture to have a personal element into your discussions, and so you can talk personal with your colleagues. You can also talk personal with your boss and make jokes with them, have fun. And it's also quite normal in Denmark to have a lot of like parties within a firm, and you do like Christmas parties and different stuff where you actually get drunk together. Yeah, so that's a bit odd about the Danish culture. Yeah, and you open up and you get to know things. And if I met my boss outside of work, probably like at a festival or something like that, I would probably give her a hug. That wouldn't be weird, that would just be the normal thing to do. So it's quite common to have a close relationship to your boss and your colleagues in Denmark, and to do things beside work. Yeah. And the reason for this is probably because of the low power distance Denmark have. So I think it's 18 on the scale. It's and that's the third lowest country. So yeah, that's definitely the reason for playing such a big role. And in some other cultures where the hierarchy is very high, that wouldn't be possible to have this kind of relationship with your boss. Yeah, and then it will create a gap that isn't as big in Denmark. Yeah, and then we have the non-verbal, and I'll start with the dress code. And as you can see here, if you go to like a professional business meeting, you'll have to wear a jacket, both men and women, and then long pants. Men would have to wear a tie and a nice shirt, and then you have to wear something casual and some nice on your feet. Yeah, and if it's more like casual, everyday business, you need a colored shirt. It could be a polo or a shirt like this. Long pants, of course, and then some closed shoes. Yeah, and women need to wear a skirt or some long pants, some nice top. And it's also acceptable to wear a dress. And greetings. In Denmark, when you greet a person, you're gonna greet them with the handshake. When you meet them for a business, and the handshake is gonna be firm and short, and you're gonna keep eye contact while doing it. And when you arrive, it would be normal for the host to first welcome you, and then afterwards offer you a cup of coffee or a glass of water or something to drink. And here I'll show a video of how a greeting typical would be in Danish culture. It's gonna come here. Hello, Thomas.
Hello.
I'm Christian. Yeah, welcome. Thank you. Would you like a glass of water or some coffee?
Oh, I'm a coffee guy, so
Yeah.
coffee would be nice.
Yeah. And then punctuality is important in the Danish culture. Arriving on time would be a sign of professionalism and also a sign of respect for each other's time. And lateness is generally viewed as rude and unprofessional and seems like you're not committed. And usually meetings will end when they're scheduled to. Okay. Conflict management. When you need to manage conflicts, you need to know about the culture of the country or the firm that you're managing conflicts in, because that would give the best view for having a good solution and managing the conflict well. And strategies for managing conflicts in Denmark, of course, would be having an open and direct communication, because the Danes value direct and honest communication. When a conflict arises, you need to discuss them openly and express your concerns early so the problem doesn't rise and becomes even bigger. And then we don't want to beating around the bush. We need to get straight to the case and not talk about some unnecessary things. Just need to find the problem and the solution, and then we go straight forward into getting onwards and not making a big problem about it. And then there's consensus building, and that's also because of the collectivism in Denmark. We need to find the involved parties in the discussion or the problem, and then we need to see if it's possible to find common ground and then make a decision together where everyone is happy and satisfied with this decision, so we can find the best solution to get forward. Then we have cultural values, influence conflicts, resolution approach. And then there's direct or indirect communication, and culture who favor direct communication, like Denmark, may address conflicts, will address conflicts openly, and where indirect communications will make way more subtle notice that they have these problems, and maybe some non-verbal as well, where direct will just tell, see, I have this problem, and then would be, I think the best one would be the direct, because it's easier to figure out what the problem is. And then there's hierarchy and power dynamics, and this goes to the power distance index, and culture was high power distance, they'll definitely go to boss or superior, where in a low power distance they'll probably do it in a group or do it an open dialogue. And then there's individualism and collectivism, where in a collective culture it's about having a big happy group you work in, and it's the group over one person, and when individualism is more about the person than the group, and that is some of the big differences in conflict management.
In conclusion, forget the preconceived notions of hard bargaining and fierce deals. Embrace the Danish way. Open communication, collaboration, and a focus on win-win solutions. Trust, patience, and a touch of cultural sensitivity will be your compass, guiding you towards mutually beneficial agreements and lasting partnerships. The lesson we learned in this exploration of Danish styles still warm our mind. It's been a fascinating shift, trading the usual haggling tactics for honest conversations and collaborative spirit. Firstly, the value of patience and flexibility cannot be overstated. Danes take their time weighing decisions carefully. My initial eagerness to rush things could have easily backfired. Learning to adapt my pace and embrace the slower rhythm was key to building trust and understanding. Secondly, the power of win-win solutions struck on a chord, moving beyond the me versus them mentality and focusing on mutual benefit opened doors to creative solutions that wouldn't have emerged otherwise. It's a refreshing approach that leaves everyone feeling valued and invested in the outcome. Finally, the importance of cultural sensitivity became crystal clear. Understanding the communication norms, value for long-term relationship, and non-confrontation style paved the way for building genuine rapport. This in turn fostered a sense of trust that became the bedrock of our successful agreement. Reflecting on these lessons, we realize that successful negotiations transcends borders and currencies. It's about building bridges, finding common ground, and fostering mutual respect. As we step back from this Danish experience, we carry not just a signed deal but a newfound appreciation for the power of cultural understanding and collaboration. And that, my friends, is a priceless takeaway. That's all from us. Thank you.